Okay.
You're listening to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partner Show. My co-host, Jeannie Roller, is on with me today once again. Jeannie, today we are talking about, do you, as the patient, get to opt out of a gender-specific care from a certain medical provider? In other words, if you're a female patient, do you get to, is it your right? Is it your responsibility? Is it okay for you to say, I do not want a male doctor in this specific setting? I don't want, if you're a male patient, I don't want a female doctor in this specific setting. Is that considered bias? Is that considered against the law? What is it considered, and why is it a big deal? And why are we bringing it up, Jeannie? I mean, I know in my own situation, there are certain medical intimate care procedures that I only want to have a certain type of doctor for that. And as far as I'm concerned, as the patient, I get to choose that. Again, in an emergency situation, right. we all agree that it's an emergency situation. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about if it's gender biased, that you don't want a male doctor for your OB/GYN. You don't want a male doctor delivering your baby. You don't want to have a male doctor for pelvic exams. In the male setting, you don't want a urologist that's a female urologist. You don't want to have, a pelvic exam as a male using a female doctor. I mean, is that gender bias? Is that troublesome? Why are we talking about it, Jeannie?
Well, this article that I'm talking about is an opinion piece written by a doctor, a female doctor, and it says avoiding male doctors is not discrimination. It may be risk aversion. And we all pretty much understand that there is a danger for women patients to be seeing a male medical provider because not all of them are good people. Some of them will take advantage of female patients sexually. And we've seen headline after headline after headline about that. But the headlines that we don't see and the stories that we don't see are the ones where male patients are violated by a female medical provider. For whatever reason, most of the time males don't want to talk about it. They don't believe that they can be sexually assaulted or abused by a female provider. And the list could go on and on and on. But just because we don't read about it doesn't mean it's not happening, and that male patients do not have a right, like a female patient, to have same gender care if that's what they want to have. I think that we're pretty used to, as women, being able to choose who our OB/GYN is, but as more and more women are breaking into typical male fields such as urology, men are coming more face to face with the fact that they're going to have to see a female doctor, plus have that female medical assistant or receptionist in there as the chaperone. So, people need to understand, for all these men, and you and I, Cindy, we've talked to quite a few who want same gender care, that they are not discriminating, that it is their basic right as a patient to have that same gender care. So I cannot say that enough. I know I've said it time and time again, but for men, the times are lagging behind. People don't have the open mindset that men also deserve that same gender care like women. And I will have to disagree on one thing that you said, Cindy, a little bit. Even in emergency care, there are different degrees of emergency. And you can get, different care if it's not a true, like you're dying within the next 2 seconds type of situation. You can have some leeway to ask for different medical providers. That was the case for my husband, that there was time, and he wasn't going to die within the next second. So there are different degrees of emergencies. But yes, I if you're bleeding to death, you take who you get.
I think part of what you're saying, might fall on deaf ears, because we've also had podcasts where people have said, any medical provider should be adequate. You and I both have talked to facilities that have that claim, if you will. There are court cases, and we've cited it on other podcasts, that say you as the person, when you've chosen your doctor, you've chosen the sex and whatever the gender of that doctor. That's not true of the other medical providers that haven't been chosen or selected by you. So there are court cases about that as well that you can look up and listen to other podcasts that we've done. In a perfect world, what people say in facilities is absolutely true. Should we be able to trust everyone that comes to us for medical care? That's going to be our medical care provider? Absolutely. In a perfect world, that's absolutely the way it should be. It should be unbiased. You should be able to have whoever you have. But in the reality of it, that's not true. We have cited case after case after case, and so many cases had to have had, sadly, sickly enough, had to have had hundreds, tens to hundreds of plus people violated as patients before anything was done to that particular medical person, which is beyond comprehension. Why do you need 200 people? Why wasn't it listened to? I get it that you shouldn't have to, it shouldn't be a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, this guy is, sexually assaulted me. This lady just did something inappropriate. I get that kind of thing. But if you have people over and over again and other medical providers in the situation working with ones that are giving that type of care and they know what's going on. And we've also talked about whistleblowers. They are trying to help the overall picture of everything, but they're the ones that most often become the bad person. They're the ones that's making the trouble. They're the ones that's making whatever. So it's a conversation, sadly, that has to be made, but we know firsthand, and we know firsthand by people that we've interviewed. And like we've said 100 times before, a lot of these people won't come on the podcast because they are ashamed. They have PTSD. They have all kinds of side effects to what happened to them in the medical setting. We did. That's how we started this, and how we got in contact with other people and other groups across the country, across the world that this is happening to right this second, sadly. But at the end of the day, if you have to fight for your rights, you do. You're not a piece of meat that people can work on. And yeah, I want to trust, I do, and I want to have respect. And so that these conversations don't have to be had, but it's not reality all the time. Like I've said so many times, what I do anymore is I ask the 2 or 3 doctors that I use for specific care that I do trust their judgment. I ask them who I should go to, and they tell me. I don't ask them who the, quote unquote bad doctors are. I just say, if it were you and you were in this situation, you know me as a patient now for how many years, 8, 10 years or whatever, who you're sending me to. And I've never had a bad recommendation by doing it that way. And that's all I do now.
And on that note, too, when a medical provider comes across a patient who asks for same-gender care, they should not take it personally.
Right.
They should try to look at it with compassion and try to accommodate. It is not a personal attack on you. It is just, what that patient needs to feel more comfortable in receiving medical care.
Mm-hmm. And that's oftentimes met with, we've seen everything before, we are medical providers. Why are you accusing us? Blah, 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 blah. And you're right, Jeannie, we're not accusing you. And if you do make the statement as that patient to say, I have been sexually assaulted, I have been, intimate care has been, not what it should have been in previous cases. Okay, yes, that person isn't the one that did it, but you as the patient are still suffering from the side effects and the trauma. And being medical providers, they should understand that. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So in the couple seconds that we have left, Jeannie, it's a good topic. It is. I mean, it needs to be talked about over and over again. And if you are the medical provider that is actually giving the respectful, dignified care that everyone expects and everyone should be able to expect, then there's no problems. There isn't any problem.
Right.
I mean, when you're not doing that, that's where the problems arise. And then, like I said, it's worldwide. We've talked with people all over the globe. It's not just here in Florida. It's not in Indiana. It's all over the country. It's all over the world. And it's a sad case. On that note, stay listening to Evergreen Media Network.